The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here he is, Brandon.
Welcome back to PopCon Louisville's live podcast stage, like PopCon's live PopCon at PopCon. Right. This is our last program. Can you tell us the last program of the day? I am your live podcast queen, Brandon Peters, and we're going to do a little thing. This is new.
Ooh,
I've never done this.
I love new.
This is with me, KJ from KJ Today. Hello. Tell people about yourself.
Hello. Yes, I'm the proud mother of 7 cats, and I also do have a husband.
All right.
Thank you for asking. The KJ Today show is your place for the positive vibes of pop culture, people to know, and pets.
All right. And with us is, as I call him, my boy Patches.
My boy, the Brandon Peters. What is happening?
Not much. So what we're going to do here is I'm calling this a franchise. I may say the words backwards. So if you can see the board, help me. Franchise health status check thing assessment. What does it say?
Take it away, Patches.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 5 p.m. podcast of the Franchise Health Status Report with Brandon Peters and KJ.
All right. So I love it.
All right. All right, welcome. So what KJ and I are going to do, I've got this little box, and it's got papers in it that have a franchise's name on it. Mm-hmm. We're going to pull it out. We're going to kind of see where it's at and kind of assess like what the future holds for it and where we're going.
I love it. I'm so glad that we're not actually playing Trivial Pursuit.
No, that was earlier today. That's
okay.
I was like, I need a box for this because I was just going to dump them on here, but I'm like, that's messy.
I'm no good at Trivial Pursuit.
All right.
But I am good at judging franchises, so thank you for bringing me here.
Yes. Okay. And if you are walking by, if you are sitting here and you need to add something to it, you can holler at Patches, and you can defend something. If we got it wrong, you can add a detail. You can support what we're saying.
We love participation.
I love participation. All right. So, KJ, you could do the honors and pick one first.
All right. Here we go. Picking one. Okay. Here we go.
All right.
It is Alien.
Alien. Okay.
I'm going to defer to you on this. I have literally, other than the original, not seen a single Alien. And I don't remember much other than she ends up with her cat.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Jonesy.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Alien's in a pretty good place right now. They have a hit movie that overdid box office expectations. It's well-reviewed. And I thought it was a pretty... I went to the movie. I thought it was pretty exciting. We also...
Romulus?
Romulus. That's the name of the ship. So most Alien movies, there's a lot of them named after ships.
Okay.
So Prometheus, Covenant... Alien, you could probably call the original Alien Nostromo, but no. So this is a sequel. It's by Fede Alvarez. There is a lot of like callback stuff to it that some people are iffy on. There's a CG character but for the most part, the general consensus is that people like it. I don't like when they're like, it feels like the old ones, because I'm like, that's what Prometheus did too. Were we forgetting that? And then Covenant tried to do that too. There is a television series called Alien Earth coming to FX from Noah Hawley, who is the guy who did Fargo.
She's a fan of the show, not us.
Oh, right on. From Fargo, from Noah Hawley, and he also did that Legion show. That was the X-Men show with Dan Stevens. That was awesome. So I'm going to say we're looking up with Alien. And before last weekend, we might not have been.
Yeah, because of that surprising box office.
Yeah. So let me ask you the question then. When the feedback on that was everyone was saying it's just like the old movies. Are we talking aliens, or are we talking like Prometheus?
This one harkens back more to Alien. And so does Prometheus, and so does Covenant. Kind of. I mean, they land on a planet, so it's I don't know.
Yeah. So because it was the originals, like the OG, that made the franchise so popular. Why are they why are the critics going, well, it feels like the old ones? Well, shouldn't it feel like the old ones because that's why it's so popular?
It's the aesthetic and like the basic outline. So it's a lot of people like haunted house with like a monster in there.
Gotcha.
And then, but the Alien series, because when they started, there's Alien. Then Aliens became kind of its own thing. It was the action movie. And then Alien 3 goes back to what Alien was. And then Alien Resurrection goes back to what Aliens was. And then we have AVP movies, which I just kind of throw them as their own thing. I will argue the first one's like okay, but the second one is I can't see it because it's so dark.
Wow.
Like it is.
It was a shot that
your
dark.
Brightness won't even go that high to let you see things in that movie.
Oh, wow.
It does have the lovely Rachel Ellsworth in it, who I like, who played Michelle Dessler on 24.
Yep.
But that's my one compliment. I did like Prometheus a lot. I liked Covenant pretty good, and I do like Romulus. So
All right.
I'd say Aliens looking up.
Do you have a comment on the whole alien thing? Because we got a microphone if you want to join the conversation. Are you sure? Are you?
All right.
Thank
Well, you can have a seat and listen if you would like.
Yeah.
Take
All
a rest. All right, I'll go for the next one.
Okay.
All right.
All right. What's next?
Star Wars.
Oh, Star Wars.
All right.
Okay. Well, given that the Acolyte was just canceled, it's not going great. I think that was the goal there with that one.
I think I don't know. Like to me, like I don't like knock all of it, but like Star Wars, like should be on a big screen once in a while.
Sure.
Yeah.
But
I
think because we had
these
things.
are different ones.
Those
These are not
different
us.
shows.
So there's just different podcasts. Who are you looking for?
Oh.
You can take a picture of that because I don't give cards because everybody throws them in the trash.
Yeah.
Hot
we
con
go.
secret. And KJ, you got something?
I don't have anything on me, but kind of nerdy girls. Kind of nerdy girls. Remember us. I'm terrible at
Or
marketing.
KJtoday.com.
KJtoday.com. So Star Wars.
The thing is with Star Wars is that as a little girl whose first hero was Princess Leia, the fact that we get so much more Star Wars, it just makes me happy. Like I kind of live in a world where I'm like, I could like tear this apart and complain about it and be mad about it, but I'm getting more Star Wars, so I want to be happy with that. And it goes back a little bit to what we were talking about with Alien. If you have people that complain, with The Force Awakens, it's too much like the old stuff. But then they try to do something different. It's like, that's not Star Wars.
What do you want, folks?
Like, I think it is. Like, I would not want to be creating Star Wars because I don't think we as fans know what we want, and we're never.
Here's my thing. I think they then made a movie, The Rise of Skywalker, that I don't know who it appeased from because the people who didn't like, who liked The Last Jedi didn't care. Generally, didn't seem to care for Rise of Skywalker, and the people who didn't like Last Jedi didn't seem to care. Like it was this weird appease the shareholders who think Twitter means what people like in the
right.
And there, there's a lot of stuff that goes with that. It was literally they thought the online anger equaled what most people. If you look at the report they do that comes out, Cinema Score. Mm-hmm. That's your mom, pa go to the theater and they ask them on a Friday night. Generally was liked. So people might not have liked The Last Jedi a lot, but they came and said, that was pretty good, and went on with their lives.
Yes.
So and then you go and make this thing that was, It was made to just like respond to a bunch of stuff, and it's I enjoy the performers and stuff in it, and it's not like super awful, but it's like not the desired.
Well, there was a consistency issue where I was like, did y'all not talk to each other about how this trilogy was going to go? Because
the reshoots, the insane reshoots of Force Awakens kind of hurt things.
Yeah, but even moving from The Last Jedi to the Rise of Skywalker, you have these moments where you're like, okay, like the build-up's here, and they're like, no, we're just like not even going to talk about that. We're going to move on to the next thing.
Can you imagine the guy who had to create the dagger that told them the map at the right time?
Right.
Yeah,
it was weird.
They threw out their original ending, so they threw out the script from Colin Trevorrow. So, and that was going to go hardcore Star Wars stuff too. And I liked. Granted, we don't know they would have executed it as well as it was on paper. but I liked where they were going with that a lot better than what we got.
And if we look at the health of Star Wars, also, I mean, we have the success of The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you put out, I think that they definitely have learned. Things started getting a little shaky when they put Solo out, but like I enjoyed Solo.
It was fine.
I
Yeah.
thought it was fine. I don't watch it over and over, but I was like, it's fine.
They didn't need to hackney the Darth Maul stuff in at the end that's never going to get answered now, but
Right.
it was fine.
But, when you look at where The Mandalorian is, like, everybody seems pretty happy with that. So if you're going to put out, Star Wars is putting out more content than they've ever put out. There's going to be more hits and more misses because there's just more content.
I think one of my things with Star Wars, if I could give them advice, stop being in love with Star Wars. Like, everything seems built to a cameo coming in from something.
Yeah.
And it's like, we can do new things. And Patches, what you got?
Well, I was just wondering, and KJ kind of touched on it, do you think the biggest problem with the health of the franchise is that it's just oversaturated now? So, and I think, because you look at all the different cons and, like Star Wars Celebration, and they're like, this is coming out, and this is coming out, and this is coming out. Is that too much?
A franchise that would go 3 movies, sit 10, 15 years, 3 movies, and there'd be some TV stuff in there in between. And now they're trying to sell theme park tickets too. That's important. That's always so. It's never going away. You're always going to get Toy Stories. You're always, as long as they have a piece of the theme park, the movie ends up being a promotion for the theme park.
Yeah, and we've covered that before on past podcasts as well, to where, at the end of the day, Hollywood and Disney, it's a business.
Right.
It's that fine line you have to walk to, like you said, appease the shareholders. However, how do you appease the shareholders and the fans at the same time? So I think, personally, it's oversaturated. A
little bit.
Like, that they're doing too much from too many different angles, right? You've got the Ahsoka that's going back to Thrawn, and then you have like Rise of Skywalker that's like coming up to the current time.
But if we're just talking about a health check, Star Wars is doing just fine.
It's fine. I think right now it's in a like kind of lower end of a plateau with the very expectation it'll rise up again. It doesn't go away. People are always happy, and I think you mentioned The Mandalorian. People like that, and then they have their critically appraised show with Andor, which has a second season coming. So I think in between those, there's a healthy thing going on. And I watched The Acolyte. I was interested. I didn't think it was it wasn't that great, but there was 3 episodes in it. Like, it was like every other episode was like doing some cool stuff with it, and I liked some of the lore they were building, and I liked that it was set in a time that you didn't have to like. You could do what you wanted. You didn't have to be adhering to like where I fit in this middle of stuff. So
I was like, "Yay, witches! This is cool." So there were some things about it that I enjoyed, but I do think that they were assuming there was going to be more.
Yep.
Or
who was the little guy with the ears at the end of the finale? We're never going to find out who that little guy.
I know.
We're never going to know.
Never going to find out that little green guy at the end from the back. Oh, who was that?
Man.
Who was
I
that?
don't know.
I don't know. Okay.
Are you drawing the next one?
I drew the
I
drew the second one.
Okay,
Friggin' Star Wars.
All right, Star Wars. Oh, Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Okay, that you get some deeper. We started with Alien, and now we're like, okay, let's go to the basic ones.
All right, big ones. And it's interesting to go from Star Wars to the Marvel Cinematic Universe because it's similar, right? It's
the same company. We are not paid or sponsored by Disney up here to talk about stuff.
Keep it in the
we're
family.
Oversaturated, but I would say right now, you saw Deadpool and Wolverine?
Yep.
I would say that movie, I was like, good job, guys. You're back on track.
Yeah.
I think introducing Deadpool into the MCU and kind of explaining to people, like we just saw the ad.
Mm-hmm.
They're running a new ad now because it's been out long enough that the
they were on
cameos
Friday
aren't gonna
night
be
at
spoiled.
Comic-Con. They were bringing out the secret casting people.
Right.
It's like, you can't even. They're spoiling it for you. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
So like it's out now. And
like to the mainstream public now.
right.
And I really thought with what they did with bringing Deadpool into the MCU, I'm like, all right, I'm good. I'm good. I think you guys are figuring it out. I was shocked in the phase after Endgame that it seemed like, like you plotted out the end game.
Yeah.
10 years, you knew exactly what you were doing, when things were going to come out, how you were promoting. And then it was like they got done with Endgame and they were like,
Right.
oh, what do we do now? We got to keep making movies, right? That's like,
Well,
how
they
were
were
you at
gonna-
not like year 5,
Yeah.
not plotting out what was going to happen after Endgame?
Right. I don't know. It was like there should have been like an Avengers movie somewhere in the last like do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 an Avenger 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, something like that, or some team thing, because that's what they always did. But like I'm weird, like where like Shang-Chi feels like it came out ages ago and that was a hit and people liked it, and where's the second movie? We
Great
forgot.
movie.
It's
Great
gone
movie.
now.
Yeah.
And then there's the weird thing that I thought was funny with the Deadpool movie where they knock on all the multiverse movies, like people don't like them. I'm like, those are literally the highest grossing of this last era.
Yeah.
Where the Strange, Spider-Man, and now Deadpool and Wolverine, like people like them because they go to those, they see that. I'm going to say Marvel's like in a very strong plateau. I don't think they've gone down. I don't think they've got people go to these. They keep up. They like it.
Yep.
I think they'll get some bumps here and there, but I think we've hit like I don't know if they'll ever peak like they did with Endgame and stuff. I think the Robert Downey
how
Jr.
can
thing's
you?
cool, but like that's we're trying to win Hall H this weekend announcement to be there, you know, like
Right. How can you? I mean, they made basically like the storyline. That is the storyline of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They made it.
I never thought they went downhill that bad after it. There was up and like, I think Eternals is going to be a movie that years down the road is going to be the nobody appreciated at the time one.
Yeah, I agree.
think
I agree, 100%.
I loved Multiverse of Madness a lot because it was very Sam Raimi, and then
Yes.
I adored it. Yes.
I liked. So a lot of people were mad about those cameos, but I'm like, it's a joke. It was funny. They did all the internet people, and then they wiped them out, and that was
Right.
hilarious. But people go, and then I loved Wanda's one of my favorite villains of the entire MCU. She was great, and people were like, but Wanda, I'm like, you realize she wasn't being good in WandaVision. She was she was our lead character, but she wasn't.
So she played the part great, but she played the part that was written for her great.
Yeah.
So going on to the multiverse thing and moving forward, ever since Endgame, it's now been on Disney Plus and releasing all the different series. You know, you had WandaVision and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then what was it?
Loki.
Loki and all those, but. I think the thing that sets Marvel apart from everybody else and why, like you said, they're on such a high plateau is that all of these individual series that they're putting out tie into an overlapping arc that eventually pays off in some way, shape, or form throughout all of the stuff.
I will say though, they do a very good job of. While we all feel like it all builds up to something, each movie does serve its individual purpose.
Absolutely.
Like when they did Civil War, but that was like everybody's like stealth Captain America movie. I'm like, his arc from that as a trilogy works through that.
Yes, it
like
did.
that's the perfect third
100%.
part.
Absolutely.
Like same with Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness works as a good sequel, like a direct sequel to that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like all of them work, and the connective stuff isn't as much as we like to play with it as, which is smart. Like I think it's a really good. They do, they don't. You pay attention, and the one that, and I thought it was a fun movie, The Marvels, but that's the first one where like people are like, it looked like you had to watch a bunch of TV shows to go understand it. They couldn't just. They needed to just give Brie Larson her sequel, and then you have who from Wanda what, and then she's a Marvel too. So I think that was a little, and plus the strike was going on. They couldn't promote, and there was. I don't think people know of that or care, general audiences, about production problems, and they try to throw Nia DaCosta under the bus for that. And I think they have one of my favorite action scenes in that house.
Oh my gosh!
It actually, unlike the first Captain Marvel, the needle drops work in it, and they had one through there, and I thought it was a lot of fun. So I'm not like I know these people shoot for the moon with these, and I'm like I enjoy going to them too, but and there's some of them that are my favorite superhero movies ever, but like it's I say plateau, but it's like a high plateau for me because they didn't, but like every other one, like Marvel's done. Here's Guardians, they're back. And they're done with it. It's this, they're back. They're consistent,
Yes.
and they will roll dice.
And I think the transition of what they just did with Deadpool and Wolverine and bringing that MCU feel to it, and then building up. They don't have as much coming out, building up to the Fantastic Four,
Yep.
and letting us wait a long time. I am such a Fantastic Four fan. I
Yeah.
mean, I have a cat named Johnny Storm.
Right.
Like, I was thrilled to see Chris
And you got
Evans
to see him
back.
one last time.
I know. I was just like, my poor Katie, 7 months pregnant. We're watching that movie, and he came on, and they're like, he's gonna say it. He's gonna say it. And I knew he's gonna say "flame on," and I just smacked her. I'm like, oh my God, here it is. It's happening. But I think they're doing a great job of making us wait for it because
Yeah.
that was part of it. That was fun with what they did with the end game. Arc was that we had to wait a couple of years in between.
Yeah.
We weren't getting anything. And so then when you went, it was an event. It wasn't like, okay, well, I'm going to get a TV show. Then there's going to be like this other movie and this thing. Like there is some beauty, as much as we don't love it as fans and don't want to wait. There is some real beauty to building these things up. So I'm like, yes, I will wait as long as you want me to wait for Fantastic Four because
Right.
I'm taking the day off and I'm throwing a party and I'm going to see the Fantastic Four.
I think like 2 to 3 movies a year. Like maybe you do 2 one year, 3 the next. 2
Yeah.
like if it's an Avengers year, you get 3. If it's
Right.
so and maybe a show. But now they're really pushing that the shows are going to be a separate thing that you
Separate,
don't
yes.
need to watch.
I think that's
And
a
less
good
of
idea
them.
because how do you get somebody into MCU when you're like, okay, well, you're going to start here and there's 86 things you need to watch in order to understand it. Like
Yeah.
nobody's going to do that.
It's like, hey, Doctor Who, like, yeah, you gonna start in
1963? Yeah.
1963, and yeah, there's ones that you're gonna just hear audio for, but I got pictures that go with it.
But
Yeah.
look what they did with Doctor Who that has kept it going is there are entry points along the way.
Yep. Oh yeah,
right? Like
it's a
there's-
different show with every showrunner, every doctor, own vibe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which
And-
but that may come up
I
later,
know,
so
I
we
wanna
should
talk about
probably.
it.
Yeah,
Okay,
and-
draw another one. Draw
All right,
another
we'll do
one.
plateau, and
Can I just put a bow on the Disney family right
Yeah.
there?
Yeah.
The biggest thing between Star Wars and Marvel, remember, Star Wars starts with an older fan base. It's an old established fan base that's been around for 40 plus years. So you're going to have so many more traditionalists that are going to be doing that comparative to, yes, do we all have comic books? But the Marvel, the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is more newer fans and they're more accepting of the forward-facing product.
okay.
What did you do? What did you do?
The Fast and the Furious.
Oh, I got nothing, dude. I've never seen a single Fast
Oh
and
my gosh.
Furious
So
movie.
all right,
I don't care about cars.
it's not about that. It's about family.
Okay, all right. Tell me more.
All right. I think they need to. I am a fan of these movies,
Okay.
and I think they need to ride into the sunset. At
Even
this time.
Tokyo Drift?
Tokyo Drift is Karate Kid with cars. Check it out. It's Justin Lin's first one. He's the best director of the series.
Okay.
There's a sweet spot here. So, so they probably should have ended with Furious 7, but
Okay.
those make money. They also have a theme park ride at Universal. So the first one, it's like Friday the 13th. Nobody's favorite's the first one. I
Okay.
don't know. The people who haven't watched them are like, the first one. The second one is a ridiculous tongue-in-cheek movie that I don't think people understand. Too Fast, Too Furious.
Okay.
John Singleton, Paul Walker, and Tyrese all know what they're doing. Cole Hauser plays a Cuban drug lord in it.
Oh. Okay.
Cole Hauser, Ginger Cole Hauser.
All right.
This movie is funny.
Okay.
Tokyo Drift, as I said, Karate Kid with cars.
Okay.
The fourth one, this dour, but it's the one that brought everybody back together. But like it
Because
was,
they're a family.
it's dour
Okay.
and like it's nice to see. It has a cool opening sequence, but then like it's got some bad CG stuff in there. But it did what it did, made money. The fifth one's one of the best action films of the 2000s.
Really?
The sixth one is a nice compliment to it, and the seventh one's awesome. It's got Statham, and it's my guy Lee. No, I'm not. Just Lee. James Wan.
There you go. Okay.
And then the eighth one's a slug because Paul Walker's gone, and they decide let's focus on Vin Diesel a lot, and it's like nope. The ninth one's kind of fine if you're into the movie. Like a lot of them, they got really popular because everybody started to go to them because it was cool to do, and then some people are like, man, this is, and they're complaining about stuff. I'm like, you realize you've been watching, you're now complaining about that. They all have these elements, but the last one I thought was kind of fun, but it didn't do as well, and I think they were going to make 2 more, and now they're just making 1 more. And there's the Hobbs and Shaw thing that's from the director of Fall Guy that just came out.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And so I'm saying we need to park the car.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to find a way and park the car.
All right.
All right.
I'll accept that.
Yeah.
All right, my turn. All right, what do we have here? Not Doctor Who. Stranger Things.
Stranger Things. Okay.
Say nice things. There's actors here. Listen.
Right. Well, we got 1 more season of the main show, and then there's going to be some spin-off stuff happening at Netflix.
Yeah. I mean, I think there seems to be a passion for it. I have not, again, I'm not completely caught up on it, but...
I think it's got a following that's never going to go away.
Yes.
Like, kind of like, I've noticed, like, Walking Dead seems to be that way.
Yes.
Where, it's going to always have people, and kids always seem to want to check it out.
Yes.
That's cool. I don't know what the spin-off's going to entail. I don't read deep dive. Like, Stranger Things is a show I watch. I think people like a lot more than I do. I did like 4th season has some really groovy stuff going on. So every time I'm like, I think when I am away from Stranger Things, I'm like, yeah, it's good. And then I watch it and I'm like all into it.
Yeah.
But that's the problem is.
Ooh.
Wow, Ninja Turtles Stranger Things comic.
Ooh.
All right.
Literally just bought this on the floor.
my
You're talking
God.
about Stranger
Nice.
Things,
Yes,
the crossovers.
They have a lot of merch too, Stranger Things.
They do.
So I think, and they have a font that people use, which is the Needful Things font, by the way.
Oh, okay.
But that's a horrible movie, so I don't know about the book. But like my friend Scott Mendelson's like, don't go to the store. That's it. That's all you have to do. You don't go to the store. If the devil comes to town, and he goes, and I know he's the devil because he comes from Akron, Ohio, and only monsters come from Akron, Ohio, like Jeffrey Dahmer and Scott Mendelson and the devil from Needful Things. But he's like, don't go to the store. That's it. And it's a long movie and a brick of a book. So
Tony Schaab here. He's one of our dear friends with PopCon.
Hi.
Do you have we're rating the health of Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Where do you see it right now?
I mean, we're heading into what I believe to be the final season coming
Right.
up on Netflix soon. I feel like at some point it has to be the final season here just because the kids, they grow up, right? Like you
Yeah.
can't stop them. And when they
Right, yeah.
started, I feel like they were like 3 or 4 years old. Not quite that bad, obviously, but now they're like teenagers. They're getting ready
Right.
to like go off to college or whatever. And it's like, I feel like you could tell more stories, but it's not going to be in this same kind of the Hawkins, Indiana vein. It's either going to be following them as they maybe
got to go to L.A. or New York,
maybe spooky things follow them in their lives. Maybe we see a Ghostbusters crossover in their future. I don't know what the future holds for these kids. I guess there's also a way you could also
Go in the
focus.
sewers, I guess.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, there's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover in the comic books. There's also, I think, maybe a way where they let the characters go off into the sunset and maybe do like more like tales, like creepy tales
Anthology
of
type
Hawkins,
thing?
right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
they
that'd
focus
be
on the
cool, yeah.
town itself, maybe.
A sidequel with going on at the
so
same
there's,
time.
dive into the deeper, versions of what Papa was doing behind the scenes and get more into the underbelly of the evil corporation and this and that. So, I mean, there's a possibility of more coming. It's just a matter of how it finishes, I think, in this final season.
Gotcha.
I think of everything we've talked about, this is the most positive one so far.
I'm going to say it's a we'll see because it has strong branding.
Yeah.
So I think
it
people
does.
would flock to anything with it stamped on it right now, or at least give it a shot. So, yeah.
All right, you're up, man. Dig in. Thank you, Tony.
I've got Chucky.
Oh, God. I don't love the horror stuff. Well, where's Chucky at?
Still waiting on the possible renewal to season 4.
Is it?
Yeah.
I will tell you, I'm going to say this is like strong because when they said they were making a Chucky series, I was like, okay.
And it's very good.
And I,
So-
I have 2 words for you. Mark Hamill. That's all you need.
No. Brad Dourif said,
Yeah.
I love Mark Hamill. He's one of the greatest voice actors we ever had, but he's not Chucky.
Okay.
Really?
That's what he said. He said it, Days of the Dead. Chucky, here's the thing. Michael, Jason, Freddy, that's the trio. That's on my Mount Rushmore or whatever. But Chucky, behind the scenes, is the only one still on his original timeline from his original creator still involved. They had a remake and said, whatever, we're still going. Because there was
Nice.
there's rights to the original. Universal can make whatever they want. but there's also the rights. But it's become a personal thing. It's a show and movies that aren't afraid to take risks. So he made a comeback with Curse of Chucky and Cult of Chucky, and Fiona Dourif comes in, Brad Dourif's daughter, to this fold to be part of the family. It's a very family thing. Original cast members start coming back to these, and it's a lot of fun. It's different. It's just well-made stuff. Don Mancini, he's the guy who does it. And then they made the show, and it's like, oh, what's the show going to be? And the show has been wonderful. Devon Sawa has made this huge comeback because he plays a different character. He played twins in the first season, and he plays a different character every season. He played President of the United States and the President of the United States body double in the last season because it takes place in the White House.
Devon Sawa, is that that's
Final Destination Casper. And Idle Hands.
The Sandlot? Was he in that?
No. Whoa, was he in the Sandlot?
Was Devon Sawa in the Sandlot?
I can't remember.
Okay.
I can't remember.
But Casper, that's one of us. Thank you.
But I think Chucky is going to come to like some sort of conclusion in the near future because Don Mancini said, hey, whether we get renewed or not, I will wrap this up or whatever. But
I think that's great. And that is, honestly, that's, to me, is a sign of a good health status. And we don't want to be talking about anything going on too long.
It's also one of the most LGBTQ plus positive shows and series I've ever seen.
Wow. I would not expect that from Chucky.
And one of my favorite things they do now is when they go to flashbacks of when Chucky's a human, Fiona Dourif plays Brad Dourif. And she does his voice like this, and she's got the hair and stuff, and they make her look like she has stubble. And she is a sweetheart. Have you guys ever done a thing?
We have not.
Okay, no. She was at Days of the Dead recently, and she is a bundle. I'd love to have her at PopCon.
Nice.
Bring her and her dad. She is a bundle of joy. So, yeah, I'd say Chucky's going to end on a high.
Okay. All right.
That's where his health's at.
All right. Let's see what we got here. Come on, Doctor Who.
Is it?
Oh, The Boys.
The Boys, okay.
I
just finished the 4th season?
Yes.
And it's going to but there's spin-off stuff and merch and all sorts,
Yes. And, so for me, I adore the show. I mean, I think that the writing is fabulous, and the way that they make you so terribly uncomfortable in ways that you still want to watch it is brilliant. But I was thinking, I'm okay if this ends. It's a lot. Emotionally, it's a lot for me. But I think that's the brilliance of it. And, I think it's a blast as someone who loves Supernatural to see Eric Kripke doing things that he could not do in Supernatural.
Yeah.
And seeing it be so twisted, and then watching, Jensen Ackles come in and knowing that he's coming back and building out those characters. I think it's a really great world that he has built.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. It kind of, I think I got the whole numbed to their shock value recently.
Did you?
Shows will happen like that. I used to be on my edge of my seat for 24, that show.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And then it gets to a point where well, they're going to kill off this person, this main character, this. And you get used to it.
You're like, how many of the longest days of Jack's life can he have?
Yeah, it's the Game of Thrones syndrome, right?
Lost had the same thing, the shock value of the killing off or doing something. So they're going lewd stuff. I'm not that shocked by it. I noticed that during this last season. I'm like, you're still trying to do that, but I'm used to you now.
Yeah.
I still like the show, and they went hardcore without unapologetic. We're just gonna wear this on our sleeve, not even poetically hiding the stuff they're going after. And I was like, bravo.
Yeah. I was really glad that Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character didn't do anything so lewd that I couldn't unsee it. There was Rob Benedict from Supernatural was the guy in the
he could multiply.
The multiply guy.
Okay.
He's God in Supernatural.
Okay.
And
so I have never watched Supernatural, believe it or not.
Gosh.
Yeah, I know. It's in my wheelhouse, and I just got to a point where that's a lot of seasons.
It is a lot.
So Jensen Ackles to me was this guy on Smallville who was a dick, and My Bloody Valentine 3D.
Oh, that's great.
See, I think of him as Eric from Days of Our Lives.
From Days of Our Lives. That's how I knew him.
And tons of Resident Evil fan casting as Leon Kennedy.
Oh.
Okay.
Tons. So,
Yeah, so I think it's great, and I think
do you watch the spinoff? I haven't watched the spinoff.
the Gen V.
Yeah, that one.
We have not, but Tia from the Kind of Nerdy Girls she said don't go into it thinking it's the boys, but it is.
I would hope it's not. I would hope it's adjacent doing its own thing.
Yeah, and that's what it is. So there's a few characters that cross over, but not for very long. It is sort of its own thing, but she recommended it.
Okay. So, do we...
Well, and
where do we stand
they
with
say
it overall?
That the fifth season is going to be the last season?
Last season.
Yes.
But we
Part of the
should've-
reason I think it's in good shape is because of the fact that they have a plan out.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I think dragging this on too long, like you said,
Yeah.
we get kind of immune to it. And how many things can they do that are going to shock us, and how much are they going to have to focus on that's going to ruin the storyline? So
And
just
they
let it go, man.
They can shock us now because anything goes.
Yeah.
They don't have to, everybody's done after this season. So
Yep.
do what
Yep.
you will.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Oh, it's your pick? Oh, no, you
No,
picked
I
the
picked
boys.
the
All
boys.
right. What am I picking?
Yes.
DC.
Oh boy.
Where are we at with DC? Okay.
Do you have a thing on the sound pad? Bum, bum, ba-dum.
It's not great. Not great.
We're about to reset, though. We're about
Yes.
to reset. But I think, I don't know that... I think the James Gunn one could be good, but I feel like in order to get the impact they want, it needs to be some generational Superman movie. And the thing is, it shouldn't have to be. And if
Right.
it's a fine movie, is that not good enough? If it's a really good movie, is that not good? Because they're trying to rebrand the heck. I have all my faith in the Matt Reeves, the Batman stuff. That's going to do well. People like it. Whatever. That's its own thing. That's fine. But what they're trying to do with the DCU stuff, I'm like, I trust it, but will good be good enough? Will great be good enough? But you're trying to a whole brand.
Yeah, I think the like you said, the problem is that we've been burned. The fan base doesn't have a lot of hope because things have been such a mess for so long. And yes, what James Gunn has done in Marvel was fantastic. I mean, I remember when they said they were going to do Guardians of the Galaxy, and I'm like, oh, you guys are getting bold now. You're going to do the raccoon in the tree and think we're going to watch it? And James Gunn made it happen. But what DC is also facing in this reboot is not only a lack of trust from the fan base that it's going to deliver, but also you do have superhero movie fatigue.
And the ire of another fan base that's not as large as they like to think they will, but they'll be annoying when it comes. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that it's just going to be really, really tough. And I wouldn't want to be in those shoes, and I don't know that they're going to be able to deliver to the expectations that we're talking about.
They do have a guy that can handle the criticism well, though.
Sure.
Gunn's pretty good at that.
Yes, he is. So
yeah.
I'm going to stand by what I've been saying for years. I think the biggest problem with DC, aside from Zack Snyder, obviously, is the fact that we've had 7, 8 Supermans, right? So you got the big three, right? You have Superman, you have Batman, you have Wonder Woman. Those are your big. I mean, for all intents and purposes, your big three of DC.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The problem is there have been it's again. I'll go back to the oversaturation thing, right? There's been too many Superman movies. It's okay. Here's another one, right?
Well, they
Here's
keep trying to
another
make
here.
the third
Same
best
with
one.
Batman.
Yeah.
They keep trying to make the third best because you're never going to top the first two. So it's
Yes.
well, now we have the
Exactly.
third best one. Congrats.
Exactly.
you know?
So to your point of it has to be a generational
That's what I'm saying,
movie,
yeah.
I 100% agree. But to play devil's advocate to that, how do you make a generational movie
in the middle
in
of
a
all this
franchise that has had so many iterations? And Henry Cavill, the last appearance of the Man of Steel Superman, it was in Justice League, right? And it's only been a couple years.
It was at the end of Black Adam.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, end of Black Adam.
Yeah, that's
that's
right.
that's my bad.
Yeah.
But that's only been a couple of years. There hasn't, to KJ's point earlier, with the waiting. They need to build out the anticipation of that more, in my opinion, for it to actually build some solid ground to stand on.
Well, and some of it too, maybe they have. I haven't followed along as much, but one of the things that, if we go, sorry DC, but we go back to the Marvel plan was, after Iron Man was the hit, they were like, hey, here's the whole thing. Like, this is what's happening for 10 years. And I was like, this is going to be the 10 greatest years of my life. Oh my God. I don't necessarily see that plan or that arc, or they're just kind of telling us like, no, it's going to be good because James Gunn's doing it. It's going to be good.
Yeah. I trust him, but I just don't. They need to do something. Yeah. We can go and like the movie and go home and have fun and be like, man, but that needs to be like a banger.
Right.
But they
with a populace. Yeah.
Well, they have. I feel like they have two approaches. One, a lot of the times has been hey, we're going to throw it against the wall and see if it sticks, right? Yeah. And there's no continuity, and they do too many one-off movies.
Right.
There's no continuity within the universe. They tried it with Justice League, and obviously with the Snyder, Joss Whedon thing, and then like how that happened. But even leading up to Justice League, the movies were still segregated into their own thing with no continuity, bringing together the Justice League.
Like we talked earlier about Robert Downey Jr. coming back to Marvel being a Hall H winner announcement. We only got Batman v Superman because they were trying to win Hall H that year.
Right.
Exactly.
That's not where they wanted to go. I will say they hit good with Wonder Woman. Very popular. Liked her.
Yes.
I even like Wonder Woman 1984. I think if people weren't at home and went to the theater and saw it, they would have been, because they wanted to be ironic and hate a movie that everybody could see at the same time.
Right.
It's not as good as the original, but it's fine.
It was so fun.
Yeah.
It was fine. Yes. It was fun. And she was great, again, as a little girl that didn't have a lot of like female heroes. Like, I mean, there was Princess Leia and there was Wonder Woman, and I thought she was absolutely the perfect Wonder Woman. And I'm sad that there's not more of her.
Right. We didn't get our third one with her and Patty Jenkins. I do say, so I did a retrospective last year to lead up to Aquaman being like the end of that run. I liked majority of the movies because they decided, the thing I liked about DC, while we're talking about this uncohesiveness, I kind of like the messiness of I don't know what I'm getting, and then I get Birds of Prey, which I loved. I think the first Aquaman is a go for broke what you should do because you don't know if you'll ever get to make another Aquaman movie again, so they just throw it all in there. Like, we all like the Harley Quinn for Margot Robbie and whatever, but people didn't go to anytime they put her something, it didn't go. So it's like, I guess the internet liked Harley Quinn, but box office receipts, they did not, because James Gunn made a great Suicide Squad movie, but nobody went.
Nobody went.
So now with Joker Folie à Deux coming up, having Lady Gaga playing the role of Harley Quinn,
people are going to shell out money.
Exactly.
And she's singing in it, and
yeah, exactly. And plus, and obviously, Joaquin Phoenix, reprising his role. So, I mean, as far as the health status of it, I think it is not as like it's not high plateau by any means like Marvel is. Yeah. But I think it's like an okay plateau.
It's fine. You don't have to be your second place or third place. And it's fine. And I'm interested to see, like, those were my characters. I read comics and stuff. Like I was hip back in the day when I read comics, and I read X-Men, Spider-Man, and Batman, and like now that's not the cool stuff, and Superman and stuff, and now I saw the cool stuff become uncool in my lifetime again, so it can just never be cool.
Dude, stonewashed jeans are coming back. It'll be fine.
All right, okay, let's get another one out of here. So,
all right, me, okay.
So
come on, Doctor Who.
Just keep Zack Snyder out of the DC universe is what you're saying.
That's fine, because have you seen Rebel Moon? Oh, keep him out of his own universe.
Harry Potter.
Oh, Harry Potter. Okay.
All right.
This is an interesting one.
It is, because
I think at worst, Harry Potter is always a plateau, at a high plateau.
I agree.
At worst.
I don't think there's anything super exciting that's coming, but Harry Potter just maintains. It's classic. People love it. Obviously the Fantastic Beasts did not do what they hoped, but they course corrected, right? They were like, "Oh, you don't like that? Okay,
we'll finish it." But they left their story where it was like, "Okay, this is complete."
Yeah.
They wanted 5,
they were
and
like,
4.
"You got it." Yeah, like we're just going to make 3 instead of 5, no problem. Like, I think Harry Potter does a really good job of reading the room, and also making us want more. I mean, I don't know when they talk about the TV series from someone who, did read the books.
Right.
There's so much you could
There
do.
is, and I don't know. Like that's what I like. I like Harry Potter on the big screen.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's going to translate streaming numbers or take away from the big impact of a Harry Potter if they want to put it on the screen again.
And so
I'm weary of it.
I don't think it will, and the reason I don't think it will is because however many episodes these shows are going to be, it's going to be each book. So you're going to have bookends of it. You're going to have a beginning and an end of a book.
Yep.
So there's not going to be dragging on. There's not going to be anything. It's how they're going to interpret each individual book that I think is what's going to be endearing to us.
Here's what I think is more important, and you're in this business: the merch.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
It is a merch thing. It is a costume thing. It is a theme park thing. It is a business and a video game that's quite popular
Yes.
too.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is one of the. It's probably one of the most successful evergreen products that is out there right now.
Well, and speak to the health of it, they don't really have to make more. Like,
No.
they're literally still successful. And even though the TV show is a thing on the horizon, they've made the games, right? And
Right.
the people love the games, and they don't have to make anything else.
And I want to say, I like the Harry Potter fandom can see that it is more than, while it has a creator that has problematic views, they see beyond that other people have made it a thing itself, and they don't just, some people are like, goodbye, whatever, but like they can see that other people have made it their own. It still impacts it, and
Right.
I feel like some other brands don't get that luxury. I think Harry Potter has gotten a big benefit of the doubt that like, no, it still meant this way. I don't agree with that, but
Right.
it becomes your own thing.
If there was only one negative that I can say about it, and it's not really a negative per se, is that they just kind of footnoted the fact that, well, the new series, we're just going to push it out to 2026, and just did it very nonchalantly.
Well,
it was supposed to be
gonna
2025.
actually happen? That it keeps
Yes.
being a thing to like sell on, and people are like, "Why are you doing that?" Why?
Yeah.
Like it's a weird thing of like, I don't need that. I was pretty happy. My favorite book is The Half-Blood Prince,
Yeah.
and they cut everything I liked about the book in the
yeah,
movie.
they
It
sure
became
Literally
a teen.
the start of the movie.
It became teen drama, and my detective mystery thing was one scene,
But
and that was the whole book.
again, to their like health status, it's very good because we're like, yeah, I mean, I would, as a book reader, I think it would be cool to see some of that stuff we didn't get, but I'm not buying Harry Potter merch because you're not making a TV series.
Right.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I'll just keep loving Harry Potter.
Yeah. Yep. All right.
I think that's that probably the healthiest franchise you could have is one where the fandom isn't constantly demanding that you give them more.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. No, I just kind of it's there. It's eternal. It's a childhood thing now that people grow up on. So,
Well, yeah, and you can take your kids to the parks and they can.
they are cool. Have you been to them?
I have not.
No.
It's like our dream.
Diagon Alley is the coolest optical illusion you'll ever like. I passed it 3 times
Did
before
you really?
and I thought it was just a little like people were going around in a circle in this little thing, and then you walk in and you're like, oh, whoa, and it's huge, and
Really?
you can't see it walking by at all.
And you can't figure it out. Like you have.
And it just
That's
and I kept when we were leaving, they're like, well, "Have you seen Diagon Alley?" I'm like, "Oh, you gotta see it." Like people like would randomly ask, and there's a little. They have Easter egg things that you can do with wands or something like that. Like you can knock on a
don't
door
they have,
and
like, spots on there that where like if you do a certain
fountain will start going off.
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
they
yeah.
have there's a door you can knock on, and creature will come out the window like this, and it go like it's a
that's so
really
cool.
fun experience. Like, and they're building a 3rd Universal Park to add more Harry Potter and a Universal Classic Monster Street with stuff.
Oh, that would be
nice.
so great.
Yeah,
Nice.
and
Oh my
they're
God,
making,
yeah.
they've made new iterations of the monsters for the park. They're the park versions of them, and they'll have rides and shows and cool stuff like that. I'm like, oh wow, this is awesome.
And we love watching the old Universal. We're big Svengoolie fans.
Yeah, yeah.
So like watching all the old Universal, horror movies
Yes.
and all that stuff
Oh,
is
that's
fantastic.
good. Well, I mean, I think I know we're getting close to ending here, but to me, Harry Potter wins.
So far, it's unscathed here. I mean, I think I think Star Wars is going to come out of it at some
Yeah.
point. But yeah. Do you want to do one more?
Sure.
All right.
You're up. I hope it's a good one.
What if it's a bad
I hope
one?
it's Doctor Who. I hope it's Doctor Who.
No.
It's not. You didn't like that
Let's just
one?
do Doctor Who.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, because I never get to talk. There aren't the kind of nerdy girls is not full of Whovians. So
Shame.
I never.
I can put on a wig and come on the show.
I appreciate that. Maybe tomorrow the kind of nerdy girls will
Okay.
deep dive into.
Did we finally get our Doctor Who episode?
I know, right?
All right.
Oh, that would be
Would
great.
Great.
I'm a kind of a Doctor Who documentarian now,
I
so
know you
that's
are.
pretty
We've been talking about
pretty
this.
crazy.
Hey.
That's why you're the Brandon Peters.
That's right.
I know. So I would like to start off by asking your opinion of Doctor Who.
I think we're fine. I don't know yet. It's hard with streaming and
It is.
to know, but I think it's more accessible than it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
I have told many people have stopped me this weekend and said, I still haven't got to that yet.
Oh man.
I need to.
So
how
good.
was it? And I said for this season, not counting the Goblin Christmas special, which I liked.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I think the best part of the season is in the middle, like after the Beatles episode.
Yep. I agree.
From there to right before the 2-part finale was excellent stuff. And then the finale, I thought it was all right, but it was very Russell T Davies, like the whole world's gone, everything else, and like
Oh, yeah.
he does his thing. But this Sutek coming back was cool. I didn't see that coming because, like you said, I get inside info on classic Who stuff and stuff that's gone. I want to enjoy it
yes.
unscathed with that. And I think Shudigawa is a radiating ball of charisma, and we'll be lucky as long as we have him.
Agreed.
And it's crazy because I was actually a very big Jodie Whittaker fan, and I know the internet had
Yes.
problems, and she's a wonderful human being.
Yep.
Yes.
And like if you're in her, I was in her presence for like this for like 35 seconds,
Really?
and I felt magical. Like
Oh,
she just
man.
makes you feel like this is a one. And I met Sophie Aldred last year, and we had dinner and like talked about. And she's like, oh yeah, she's like the one thing that's real fun with her is like she's very family oriented, and if something conflicts with family stuff, she won't take a job or she won't do this. Like she's, but I liked her. I did like her era.
I did too.
And I thought, and her first season, which was like, when I left it, I was like, well, what are we coming back for? Like, it just felt, but then I went back to it, and individually, those are some very cool episodes.
Yes.
Correct.
I agree.
I think Jodie Whittaker played an amazing doctor.
Yeah.
As a doctor. I think the shortcoming of her era as the doctor was the writing.
Yeah.
They were trying to push too much of a social narrative on all the fans because unfortunately in society, her being the first female doctor
Yep.
already was getting backlash, which is complete crap because she played it perfectly. And then on top of that, Chris Chibnall was just trying to pound home just so many different social narratives.
Well, yeah.
And I think her like you said, charisma and her just being, I mean, she was the doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got lost in the whole shuffle of
Yeah,
that.
well, and behind the scenes, Chibnall set up Doctor Who with the most diverse staff of writers, production teams, directors than they'd ever had before, and it's still going. And with her, all of a sudden, I noticed this, and people always be, well, it's the writing. I'm like, when it's really racism or sexism, they'll always blame the writing and then give you no examples.
Yeah.
But she got questioned about things they never asked about any of the male doctors. There were things coming up that didn't matter with the male, like with Capaldi or Matt Smith. Like it was like they just all of a sudden start seeing it differently.
Yep.
And I'm like, that was present here. That was present. And they're like, Chibnall didn't know what's going on. I'm like, he is throwing deep cuts randomly in this stuff. He knows the show. He was the president of the Doctor Who Fan Society back in the day.
Was
and
he really?
He was on TV. Like, I bet he feels awful about this, but he was on TV after the finale of the Trial of the Time Lord, season 23, Colin Baker. Mm-hmm. And they did. This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. It was a talk show. They had Pip and Jane Baker, the writers of it, on there, and they had fans to ask questions about it. And he was one of them in the crowd,
Oh
and
my
he
gosh.
had an awful question, like nerd thing that was like nasty to them.
Oh no.
And like I'm like, wow. And then he got to be a showrunner, but props to him for going forward with what he did, and he got that nasty end of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
with it. But like
yeah,
he
for
saved
sure.
the show because the BBC was going to try to can it when COVID happened.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he convinced them, I can do it for this, and he saved it. And
Yeah.
people don't know that.
Yeah. Well, and on top of the fact, and I think Doctor Who is it's obviously above DC, but
It's like, it's weird. It's always going to be there.
yes,
Yeah.
and I think too, having with the specials that came out, having David Tennant and Catherine Tate come
Yep.
back, and the way they left that story when in Judy
Yeah.
Gatwa became the Doctor, David Tennant
Tennant.
is
Yeah.
still in that universe, so
Yeah.
he can pop back in at any point in time. So, like for me, as of the 2005 and on Doctor Who, that's really exciting to me because you're like, ooh,
Yeah.
he might just show up at any point
There
in
is a
time.
possibility.
So Russell T. Davies said that the David Tennant Doctor, what he does is to represent the series finale of the 2005 to 2023, and now Ncuti Gatwa is season 1.
Yes,
That's what he's, so they're still
Well,
there.
they even
but-
that calling it season 1.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. With
And-
the new Disney Plus platform and everything, yeah, they literally started as like, all right,
Smart
boom.
move, I get it. And that's what Stephen Moffat tried to do with Matt Smith. He tried to call that series 1, and they're no.
Yeah. Well, and I do tell people that's a good
That's a
entry
starting
point.
point.
If
Yes,
you don't-
very good.
If you don't want to oh gosh, it's too much, where do I start?
It's like,
Start
oh my God, it's
here.
been on the air for 60 years. Where do I?
Yeah.
The 11th hour is a good way to get into
It is.
if you want to continue, get into modern Doctor
So
Who.
did I tell you I'm going to be in a Doctor Who book?
I know.
So
I did not
I
hear
wrote
that.
about. They asked where should someone start, and I said the 11th hour. That was
Yeah.
mine, but I said any start of a Doctor is good in the newer series. But I'm like, I had to recommend a classic one, and I think when did I put City of Death with Tom
Okay.
Baker because it's a little bit of a romp. It's got everything Doctor. It's got time travel. It's got history. It's got an alien. It's got Julian Glover who starred in multiple different series back then. And it's got a fun ad. It's a Douglas Adams who did the Hitchhiker's Guide wrote it.
Oh, nice.
And it's got planet ships. It'll give you everything. It is a 4-part one, not one of the longer ones.
oh, nice.
And it's a lot of fun.
I liked on the classic. I always tell people to do John Pertwee's first.
He's really
with
easy
with the
because it's
Autons.
Earthbound and he's really
with
easy.
the Autons. That his first episode arc.
Right, yeah, he's real good to get into, and I'm really happy to see the 80s Doctors getting their due nowadays.
Absolutely.
There's
Well,
just-
especially McGann.
Well, McGann, he's underground super popular because of he kept it alive via audio. He's
Audiobook,
he's
yeah.
the big Finnish Doctor.
Like the Day of the Doctor, when the 50th anniversary
Oh, yeah.
came out, being able, all the extras on the DVDs and Blu-rays, him finally, I felt like he finally got his due.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, here.
Power of the Doctor as well. He came back for that.
Correct.
That was
correct.
That was insane when that happened. I was like,
Yes, it
what? And a
was.
lot
Oh
of
yeah,
people.
Davison Baker, McCoy, everybody was.
That's what
back.
I remember, actually. Carl from PopCon hadn't seen it yet. And I literally was freaking out. And he's like, no, I haven't seen it yet. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you have to go
People
see
nailed
it.
and I know a lot of people are like, Jodie wasn't in. She disappeared for some. I'm like, dude, it was the 50th anniversary it was the 100th anniversary of the BBC.
Yeah.
So that was made for that. And they brought back stuff, and people you wouldn't think that they try to get Tom Baker, but he's really old right now, and he doesn't do conventions.
Yeah.
They've pre-recorded a lot of interview stuff with him, just to safekeep for
Sure.
things.
But even the 50th anniversary and Day of the Doctor with him coming in as
Oh, yeah.
museum curator, I mean, we all lost it. We're like, no.
Well, and I think
And he was really, really showing his age at that point too.
Yeah.
where it's at now, I have a lot of hope for where it's going, because I think that they did need to modernize a little bit.
Yeah.
I know it was getting beat up in the reports about the BBC and the ratings, but it was like, well, everybody's
BBC
streaming it, guys.
So someone
We're
pointed
streaming
out
it.
Doctor Who for the longest time was the only genre show being beholden to old school ratings
Yeah.
numbers, and it was still the numbers were down, but it was still finishing top 10 for the week, top 3 for top 2 for the for the hour for it was still finishing ranking wise good, but everything was down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and remember,
Everything's down.
And guys, remember, back when Cheers was on, and back in the the
Yeah.
old network days.
You let it bake.
There were 23 or 30 million people tuning in every Thursday night to watch Cheers. Now, if NBC gets 1 or 2 million people tuning into live TV, they are looking at that as a massive win for the network because everything's streaming, everything's on demand.
You look at what they're doing with the streaming, you look at what they're doing with their social media. It's just that they're modernizing the way that they can reach new fans, which is what they need to do.
Well, I like classic Doctor Who is all on Tubi.
Yes.
On demand. And that's cool. And they've had the Pluto channel for a while, which is like, oh, I can be like old school, like 90s and just flip on like, oh, I'm stuck watching this one, like that.
Oh, shucks, there's Ace.
Yeah. So, but all right. So I'd say Doctor Who's in pretty solid shape.
Yeah.
I just don't know number. The spin-off coming, the war between the land and the sea. I like Gugu Mbatha-Raw coming back to Doctor Who, playing a different character, as you should.
Yeah.
In Doctor Who, you play one person and you go play a lead somewhere.
Yeah. Bernard
I was
Cribbins
really thrown off
I'm
by...
curious that's where he went.
Right. Me
Because we just did Legend of the Sea Devils, and that was like, I didn't think it was one of Jodie's
that
best.
was not good.
No.
But that was an extra. They were never. So that was a script that got thrown out during Flux.
Okay.
And because it couldn't work. And then they're like, hey, can you do a 50th anniversary special on top of the 8 we got you for? And they're like, okay, well, we'll fit it in here and make it its own thing. And that's kind of where it went.
It was.
I don't know if spinoff's going to bring more, but I'm excited to see some unit stuff. And I'm
really
open,
excited.
but it just...
I just thought the way they were building it up, like we're getting a unit show.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
just give us a unit show.
this is a
I
unit
know,
thing,
but no one's unless you have like read it. Like you're not going to click on that title and be like, oh, that's the unit spinoff of Doctor Who. If someone doesn't tell you that's the unit spinoff of Doctor Who.
Right, very true. So we'll see.
Some branding
They
issues
started
there.
doing a script read this weekend, by the
Did
way.
they?
Yeah, he was
Oh,
posting
nice.
about it. So
Oh, nice.
Excellent.
okay, well that'll do it for us. KJ, you want to tell people where you can keep up with you on the future recording, or if they're walking by?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to follow our YouTube channel, The KJ Today Show, and my celebrity interviews, and all of our wonderful shows in the entire Kind of Nerdy network, you can just go to kjtodayshow.com. And if you want to follow me on social, I do post a lot of cat pictures and positivity. And you can just go to kjonsocial.com and pick your favorite social media network, and you'll find me there.
All right, Patches, you got anything?
I do everything she does, just not as good, and I just push buttons.
All right, cool. All right, that's the podcast for today. I'm your host, podcast stage 4 today. I am your host, Brandon Peters. You can follow me at Brandon4KUHD or just come say hey to me at the podcast stage. We will be back tomorrow for the last day of PopCon starting at 11 a.m.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at BrandonPetersShow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at BrandonPetersShow.com. The show is available on Apple Music, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.